A blast at JC Boyle Dam this year kicked off the process of drawing down the reservoirs behind 3 Klamath River dams.
Wow. Look at that. There we go.
JC Boyle is one of 4 Klamath River dams on the Oregon-California border that are coming out in the country's largest dam removal project. The removal is expected to restore the river and reopen spawning habitat that salmon haven't been able to reach for more than a century. Local tribes who have been fighting for dam removal for decades say this is a big win.
To me, the river is our bloodline. Everything connects to the river. The streams, the mountains, everything, our fish is connected to that river, and that's our lifeline. And when it's gone, we're gone.
From the newsroom of OPB, I'm Jen Chavez, and this is The Evergreen, a podcast about the place you call home. Last week, we brought you up to speed on the water issues in the Klamath River Basin and where things stand now in the dam removal process. Today, we wanted to focus more on the experience of the tribes living along the Klamath River. We're going to hear the perspective of tribal members, talking about what dam removal means to them and their hopes for the future. OPB science reporter and editor Cassandra Profita brings us the story.
It's September of 2023. Sammy Jo DeFentorum looks across Copco Lake. On this sacred landscape, she reads her own history that was nearly erased from public consciousness.
You can see over there where the canyon kind of narrows, that's where the historic river channel is. That's also our traditional fishing site. So that's where we traditionally dip net fished since time immemorial, as we say.
DeFentorum is a Shasta tribal member and a cultural preservation officer for the tribe. The history of this area is downright ugly. Some of the most treacherous times for the Shasta people came with the gold rush in the mid-1800s. Tribal members once hid in a nearby cave from gold miners who were trying to kill them in 1854. And as settlement and development happened along the Klamath River, more and more of the Shasta homelands were taken. They haven't called this place their home in more than 100 years.
It's kind of weird to have like that identity almost of not being a homeless Indian because we're not homeless. We have houses, but we're away from home.
At Copco Lake, the reservoir above Copco 1 Dam, tribal villages once stood along the river. When the dams were built, the land here was flooded, and Shasta people were forced out of their remaining properties through eminent domain.
This area represents a lot to us.
Standing next to the reservoir, DeFentorum recalls her grandmother, Kitty Grasshopper, who married a succession of white landowners. In part, she suspects, so her grandmother could remain living on the land near her people.
The women that really held the tribe together in a lot of ways, strong women. And, they also paid a price. They really did. And all of those efforts to keep the community intact, when the dams were built, guess what? The land was taken by eminent domain.
As part of the dam removal process, crews are building a new hatchery here to raise salmon to repopulate the river. Because dam removal operations will likely damage Shasta cultural sites, DeFentorum says the tribe has asked the state of California to return some of its homeland to make up for the damage.
We want our land back. We want some of our land back. This whole area here that they call Copco Valley, that's not what we call it.
This area is known to the Shasta people as Kuschachchas.
We have a lot of things that are submerged as a result of the dams and the land being taken. Our people were displaced, families, villages. That have been really hard to patch together over the years, but we also do have ceremony sites here. The site of our salmon ceremony is here.
Getting the land back would mean she and tribal members could return to their sacred site and traditions.
For future generations. I look at my little grandsons and it's like, they deserve to have culture, to to have ceremony and to have tradition.
The state's pending decision has high stakes for about 300 members of the Shasta Indian Nation, which doesn't have any designated tribal land. But Deventorum is hopeful.
Governor Newsom's policy also does say that excess land owned by the state should be returned to Indian tribes. And the majority of land that we're looking at is really right here. The reservoir. It's, our traditional homelands down to some of the area around Kopko. We're not actually looking at Iron Gate. I think there's been too much damage there. I think they're coming back. I do. I believe that. We actually have a saying.
Araki, Taku, Tarak. To give the land back.
Give the land back.
It needs to be salt and peppered.
Oh, okay.
Right,
Gotcha.
well, a little bit first. Let them season it up first, then you can go stake her in the ground. Get this ceremony started.
All right. You ready? Wherever you want to put it.
It's October of 2022. Kenneth Brink, vice chair of the Karuk Tribe, is preparing salmon on Karuk land in Wairika, California. More than 30 adults and children have gathered here today to celebrate and plan for the upcoming dam removal process. Tribal members are preparing ceremonial salmon by smoking it on stakes around a fire. Everyone listens as Ron Reed, a Karuk tribal member and cultural biologist for the tribe, starts talking.
We're in Karuk land. This is our service area. So it's an honor for us to bring this salmon out here to provide the spirit of not only management, but all of our lifestyles, all of our abilities to turn the situation around. And if we can do the things that we're talking about right here, it's only going to do the benefits of the indigenous populations along the river, because that's what we need to survive.
Reed is a tribal elder and a traditional dip net fisherman. That means he uses a large circular net to scoop fish out of the river. He helped catch the salmon here from Ishipishi Falls, the last remaining dip net site for the Karuk.
We caught enough fish to give enough people in our community fish, our ceremonies fish, enough to smoke and put away for ourselves, and therefore we had a little bit of extra. And so that little bit extra is offered to this situation in that level of awareness, what salmon means to us.
Unlike the Shasta Tribe, the Karuk Tribe does have some land, but they also need salmon for their cultural ceremonies, for their way of life.
The salmon is the monitoring tool of all the things that we're supposed to do as Karuk people. Our inherent responsibility is to be able to manage for that resource, to have a right to harvest.
For downriver tribes, including the Karuk, the dams have contributed to dramatic declines in salmon and steelhead, with some runs near extinction. Removing the dams will reopen 400 miles of salmon habitat, including a lot of spawning grounds the fish haven't been able to reach for more than a century. There's no guarantee the salmon will thrive in this drought-stricken basin. But Reed says the return of abundance in salmon will mean everything to him.
It's going to be better water. The river's going to find its way back. There's going to be some short-term impacts, but the long-term longevity is going to turn things around 180 degrees. I believe instead of extinction we're looking at, it's going to be a revitalization of our fishery, from the top of the river to the bottom.
He's not the only one who's excited.
And usually it's just the fishermen down there, doing those things in a small group of people. But this year, for some reason, the spirit of the river was reflected in the population that come down to the fishery this year. They heard there was fish and people come down, and we hadn't caught fish in probably almost a decade to where we can distribute, take care of our ceremonies, take care of our elders. There'd be such a small amount of fish that I'd be doing the majority of the work because nobody be around. There's no fish in the river, nobody comes down, but there's fish there, everybody comes down. So this year we had community
Reed says sometimes he asks himself, why am I catching fish if there's not enough for the entire Karuk tribe? Then he remembers.
At the end of the day, this is what we work for. This is the respect that we have for the sacrifice, the dedication of our people to do the things that we do. I've already cried all the tears out. I've already lived the dark side. And this is the result of sacrifice and dedication and the reward system that isn't right in front of you, but comes down the trail.
Coming up after a short break, we hear from Alana Grant. She's a Karuk tribal member helping to restore thousands of acres around the reservoirs and dams.
None of the sunflower was here, and now this year it's all blooming and healthy looking. It's just crazy to see that.
Alana Grant is a Karuk tribal member. It's fall of 2023, and she's gathering native sunflower seeds along the Iron Gate Dam reservoir.
I'm looking for these ripe seeds. They're ready when they're dark like this and hard. That's how we know that they're good to go. They're kind of dried out, looking not flowering like the rest of the sunflowers. The work that we do out here is just, collecting the native plants, and we just want to keep it as natural as it was, many years ago. So having as much of these native species in there is going to really, really help it a lot.
Grant works as crew lead for the Uro Tribe, which is working with the company Resource Environmental Solutions to restore more than 2,000 acres around the reservoirs and dams. Grant and her crew have the hard job of collecting native seeds and then replanting the bare land after the reservoirs are drained. After the seeds are collected, Grant and crew members bring them to a building to process.
So right now the crew is mashing up the seeds, so it'll be easier to put through the clipper, which is the shifting machine. And then once it goes through that, then it ends up right here where I lay them out on the board and try to get them as clean as possible. And then we go ahead and tag it and store it and wait for us to be able to use it. It's definitely a process, but it's fun to do, and it's nice to get out of the heat every once in a while.
Grant grew up in Wairika, near the Shasta River, and this is her first job. Her dad told her about it.
I'm a local around here, and that's what's good about this project is I grew up around the river, and just seeing that it's going to get healthier, and I'm playing a part in that. It just means a lot.
Grant says it's hard work, but it helps to love what you're doing.
That's when we just remember what we're working for and why we're doing this. That just kind of helps us keep on going. We love the fish, and we understand how important it is to keep them healthy and do our part in keeping them healthy. It's a lot of responsibility for us as people.
She says she has a close relationship with the river.
To see it become so bad is like it hurts. So when these dams come down and we see like a good progressive movement happening, that's really what we're working for.
Clayton Dumont is the chair of the Klamath Tribes. He's one of many people gathering at JC Boyle Dam for an historic event. Water is being drawn down from the reservoir.
These dams have been in for over 100 years. It was my great-grandfather's generation, right, that opposed these dams going in. We have testified about the problems that they presented to us during the intervening decades, both in terms of culture and in terms of subsistence. So one way to think about them is that they are a very old treaty violation, right? Our 1864 treaty says that we were entitled to the fish, and our ancestors took thousands of pounds of salmon out until the dams cut those off. More recently, right, these coming out are important because we know, and the lower river tribes agree that this is one ecosystem, right? From the ocean all the way to the headwaters up here. And all of us, all the living things, the birds, the animals, the fish, the tribal people, the farmers, the ranchers, the cities, the towns, all of us depend on a healthy ecosystem. So it'd be hard to overstate the importance of getting these dams out. So it's a historic day. It's an incredible day.
You have to start at the lower end.
We're going to walk down to the warehouse.
Dumont walks with a group of Klamath and Modoc tribal leaders towards the dam, which is laced with explosives. For safety, they file into a warehouse next to the dam and gather around a television screen to watch a live video feed as the explosives blast a hole in the dam.
Wow. Look at that. Here we go. You all right?
People are emotional as they file out of the warehouse and walk out onto the dam, which now has a torrent of water rushing through it from the reservoir above. Tears are streaming down Natalie Ball's face as the Klamath Tribal Council member watches the river flowing under her feet.
I don't know, I'm just gonna cry. Just cry it out for a while, you know?
Jeff Mitchell is a former Klamath Tribal chair. He says the river is talking to him, and he sings. He says the water rushing through the dam is a sound of joy, happiness, and hope.
You know, it was telling me that this river's going to be free here again soon, and it'll be once again a river. And that felt so good, you know, and all of these years of fighting this fight, you know, it made it really worth it, you know, and this has been quite a struggle, and I was standing there thinking about the people that we lost along the way, and there's been a lot of people from the different tribes that worked on this and contributed towards this, you know, and they moved on. They're ancestors of ours today, and I could feel them looking down. I could feel them looking down on us, and they were smiling.
This is a big moment. Mitchell says he can't wait for the future of the Klamath.
If I'm lucky in 10 years to see fish swimming by my home in Chiloquin, and, you know, I might be here when my people will go out and fish again. And that would be something. To be able to go down to the river and watch a salmon swim by. I don't know. I think that might be one of the greatest moments of my life, I would think. You know, I think it's a beginning of a new chapter of healing.
The voices you just heard are from tribal members Sammy Joe DeFontorum, Kenneth Brink, Ron Reed, Alana Grant, Clayton Dumont, Natalie Ball, and Jeff Mitchell. Cassandra Profita narrated this story. She's a science reporter and editor at OPB. You can read all her coverage of the Klamath Dam removals at opb.org. Thank you for listening to The Evergreen, a podcast from OPB. If you're here listening right now, you are a part of our brand new podcast family. Help us grow by leaving a review on your favorite podcast app, including YouTube. Follow us there, and hey, tell your friends. Mia Estrada produced this episode, and our technical director is Stephen Cray. Nalene Silva engineered the episode. The OPB podcast team also includes Julie Sabatier and Sage Van Wing. Cassandra Profita and cinematographers Todd Sonfleeth and Brandon Swanson did the interviews you heard in 2022, 2023, and 2024. The music you heard in this episode is from Audio Network. If you have a question for us, please reach out. You can hit us up by email at TheEvergreen@opb.org. I'm Jen Chavez. Catch you later.